introduce you to Mark Crump, who bought a pub by mistake. And I'll let Mark tell you all about that.
Hi. I'm going to have to speak really quickly because this was a 20-minute talk. It's been condensed. Okay, so the first slide here shows that there's been a massive variance between the price of drinking in pubs as opposed to the price of drinking at home. It started at about the late 80s. There used to be like 30% difference, whereas the price of beer in supermarkets has gone down quite a lot. It's gone up hugely in pubs, and people don't really understand why that happened. Now, supermarkets were regulated as an industry, and they didn't used to be able to sell lots of things, but the big ones that were controversial were booze and books. But in the 80s, they changed all that. And that's great, because it's great for the consumer, and they use it as a loss leader and get you in. But other legislation happened at the end of the 80s. In 1989, it was decided that brewers should no longer own pubs, because it was a vertical model. So brewers you could only get one kind of bitter or one kind of lager or whatever in a pub, and it was seen as anti-competitive, so brewers had to sell all the pubs. So they had to split up into two different things. People that made beer and people that own property. The effect of that was, well, people thought maybe it'll go like the owner-operator model in Ireland, where people own a pub, might own 1 or 2 or 3 pubs, or they might own, and then really look after them and care about them and what have you. But what happened was a different situation altogether, which was venture capitalists bought vast numbers of the pubs, tens of thousands of them, and gradually what happened was a new group of companies called Pubcos, which were totally separate from the brewers, and they created these new leases, and then there was some mergers and acquisitions that went on, and eventually there was only a couple of them left, and they owned 20, 30,000 pubs of the 60,000 that were in the UK. What happened next was they needed to get people to run the pubs for them. So they went to the incumbent managers who were already managing the pubs, Turkey's, me being one of them, and created these leases, which were more like a franchise model than an actual rental of a pub, because you had to buy all these stuff from them.
Wait, hey, it's your round.
You have 2 ways of making the money, the tie and the
Wait,
chain.
it's your fucking round. It's my round anyway, bro. You get the round. Fuck, it's your round.
And they sell this as they've got superior buying power, so the savings that they make, they will distribute between the people who've got the lease. But that's a complete lie and a farce, because if someone's tired, they actually pay twice as much as you could get it for on the open market. But that's what the pub that's where they make the profit. The chain is a different thing. The chain is throughout the 90s and the 2000s, anyone could go and get £50,000, £100,000 to buy one of these leases. And what the pub companies did was take advantage of that by selling ones which were completely impossible for anyone to make any money ever and would go bust very shortly. But they didn't care, because they were getting to get the £50,000 or the £100,000 regardless. So during the property bubble, this was brilliant for them, because
it's your round. You're hanging at the back of the bar, so just bounce.
The pub company's share price went up massively. Punch, which was one of the biggest ones, went from being worth a couple of $100 million to $9 billion in a very short space of time. And they remortgaged a lot of that. They took like $3 billion out in loans in 2007, paid the shareholders off, gave the chief exec, Giles Thorley, he was the highest paid person on the FTSE. He got paid more than 1,000 times what his staff were getting paid. But then it all crashed. The property market crashed. The Pubco price crashed. It went from being, they were 9 billion, they went to being worth 75 million over a period of a couple of years, but the 3 billion debt's still there, and that's the issue. The issue is that there's the 3 billion that's still got to be paid for, and how do they do it? Well, the issue is that they are stuck. The only way that they can do it is to raise prices. The chain doesn't exist anymore because banks won't loan anybody any money, so those pubs remain shut. The
You're hanging at the back of the bar, so just bounce.
Keep on increasing all the time.
And you're banging in the back of your car.
We pay far more money for booze in pubs than they do in the supermarkets. I suppose the next thing from that is like, well, oh yeah, legislation. During the time that Gordon Brown was Prime Minister, the booze duty went up 28% as well, which supermarkets wore really well. But that was just another thing that was really affecting pubs at the time. It was a stealth tax. While VAT was being lowered, booze duty was going up, and so beer continued to increase in all kinds of pubs. And so the result is like an awful lot of pubs are shut in. There's 10,000 since the recession kicked in. There was only 60,000, and now there's 50,000. There's 50 a week still shut in. The costs are huge because most pubs, an average pub will raise over £100,000 a year in tax. They also employ a lot of people and what have you, but there's the cost to the social community. There's the cost to, you know, the local communities no longer have somewhere for the societies and for charities and what have you. An awful lot still do, but a lot of closing. The solution is places like this, I suppose. An independent model is growing. There are more independent pubs starting to form, and Weatherspoons and that's a different model altogether, but that's it. Yeah.